presented by Exquisite Timepieces. More about them in the description down below and later in the video. What's up everyone, this is Guy with the Just Bluefish channel, and today we're looking at an Omega Seamaster 300. And actually, we're looking at two, but they're effectively the same watch, just different strap options. The latest edition of the Omega Seamaster is a design based on the original Seamaster watches from 1957, but with upgrades giving it modern quality and refinement. It's visually quite different than the standard Seamaster diver with its vintage-inspired design cues, lack of helium escape valve, and a more streamlined case profile. And if I'm being honest with myself, as much as I like the standard Seamaster diver, I think I actually prefer this one more. Now, before we get into all of the features, the specifications, and my thoughts and opinions on this watch, give me just 30 seconds of your time to say a quick word about my channel sponsor. This video is presented in partnership with Exquisite Timepieces, located in Naples, Florida. Exquisite is an authorized dealer of dozens of watch brands, including Seiko and Grand Seiko, Omega, Oris, Blancpain, Breguet, and many more. Exquisite also has an amazing selection of pre-owned watches with new inventory coming in daily. So if you're looking for your next watch, check their website, exquisitetimepieces.com, or call their store at 239-227-2932, and let them know that you heard about them from Guy and the Just Bluefish channel. I can't recommend them enough. This watch is 41mm in diameter with a 14mm thickness, and has a lug-to-lug length of 48mm. The spacing between the lugs comes in at 21mm as well, giving us a fairly nice overall size and scale with a few minor caveats. First, I do wish that this was a hair thinner than 14mm. Now, 14mm isn't bad for a diver or a sports watch, but considering that this doesn't have extremely high depth ratings, nor does it have the helium escape valve as found on the standard Seamaster diver, I'd have liked to have seen this come in with an overall thickness of 13mm or under. Secondly, watches wearing an odd size strap or bracelet like 21mm in this case isn't my preference. Now that's barely worth mentioning, and it's certainly not something that would keep me from considering a purchase, but 20mm would have been ideal in my opinion. That said, on the wrist, and my wrist is 6.5 inches, the watch wears really well, and if it weren't for the slightly thicker stance on the wrist, I'd say that this is just about perfect in terms of comfort and feel on the wrist. The rest of the specifications on this one include screw-down crown with 300 meters of water resistance, domed AR-coated sapphire crystal, blue anodized aluminum elapsed time bezel, and a matching blue dial with vintage superluminova recessed dial markers. The movement is the Omega Caliber 8912 METAS certified master chronometer, which is visible through the display caseback window. It is high quality, highly accurate, and nicely decorated and presented as well, and the movement has a 60-hour power reserve. Now, since the watch is without a date complication, the movement does offer a jump hour feature, allowing you to change the time zone without stopping the movement from running. The price on these watches are $6,500 for the model on the bracelet and $6,150 for the version on leather strap, which is actually about $1,000 more than the Diver's 300 version of the Seamaster. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on whether the added expense is worth it, but for me, all I can say is that I simply like the design better, so I'd pay the premium and get the watch that I like the look of more. The watch case and the bracelet's fit and finish are outstanding, but there are a lot of polished surfaces on this, meaning that they're going to show smudges like crazy, and it will also show scratches. This may be a negative for you from a practical standpoint, or maybe just from an aesthetic perspective, but I do like the finishing on this, and I wouldn't be too concerned about putting honest wear and tear on a watch. After all, it gives the watch character, and it makes it your own. Now on the bracelet model, we start with vintage style pivoting U-shaped end links, which I quite like. I love the look of this style of end link. And we have a 3-piece link bracelet. The dual trigger deploying clasp is extremely nice quality as well, and it does feature an on-the-fly push-button adjustment, which is hidden in the underside, and it lets you size the bracelet in and out by a few millimeters as needed. Now, it's not as versatile as something like the Rolex Glide Lock, but it's a good system nonetheless, and it should work for most users just fine. Now, the other version that we have here is on a leather strap, and it's a very nice leather strap with a matching stainless steel Omega pin buckle. The beige strap is soft and it's pliable, and it's very high quality. But for my money, I personally always go for the bracelet when possible. Now, as nice as this strap is, leather straps are widely available on the aftermarket, so finding a nice option is always pretty easy. On the other hand, finding an aftermarket bracelet for this watch, that would be probably next to impossible. The vintage Superluminova on the dial and the handset is multicolored for readability, and it's bright and it's long-lasting. I think it makes for a nice display in low light with that color combination, and I'm sure that if you were going to actually use this watch for diving, it would also help with functionality as well. That said, being a diver, it might have been nice if the bezel were fully graduated. As it stands, we have markers at just each 5-minute interval. Now, I will say that for me personally, purely from a design point of view, I think that this looks really great. But timing something down to the minute might be a bit harder with this type of layout. Now, being as I don't dive, that's 100% not an issue for me, and I like the look, so I'm personally fine with it, but your mileage may vary if you are, in fact, looking for a functional diver. The bezel assembly itself is super nice, with excellent smooth action that competes with any other high-end dive watch that I've ever come across. The clicking detents are crisp, and the action is really excellent. The coin edge on the bezel is also superb, and the feel in the hand is really second to none. The blue dial and the handset on this one are top-notch as well. The hour markers are filled with that vintage lume in a creamy off-white coloration. Now, some people are going to love the faux patina thing, and others are going to hate it. I personally don't mind it on things like hour markers, or the lume on a watch's handset. I absolutely don't like faux patina when it comes to things like fake damage or distress, making the watch look used or worn out. But a little off-white color on the markers, that's honestly not a problem for me at all. The hands on this watch are the broad arrow pointer on the hour with the sword-style minutes hand, and they're some of my favorite hand designs out there. They're finished really, really well as well, with high polish and a nice bevel going right down the center. The seconds hand, however, I gotta say I don't love the lollipop circle at the tip. I'd have just preferred something like a standard pointer personally, as there's just something about this presentation that I don't like. The blue dial itself is a dark blue, and it's in a matte finish with the recessed hour indicators, and it looks really nice up close. Now, the Omega and the Seamaster branding on the dial, it is just printed, but I'm fine with that, and I think that it's in keeping with the vintage style. So a lack of something like an applied logo, that's not really something that I have an issue with on this model. So yeah, overall, I think this is a stunning watch with just a couple of things that I could nitpick, like the thickness and the styling of the seconds hand. Certainly, these aren't make or break issues for me, and it's in the top few divers that I would call all-time greats. Obviously, this competes with things like the Rolex Submariner and the Tudor Black Bay 39, which are two that I might personally consider over this if I were looking for a new diver for my collection, but I can't think of many or maybe any other divers that I like better than this one. And that has nothing to do with the quality of the product, it really boils down to things like design and style. I would personally probably go with the black dial version over this blue dial, but that's just because I tend to be a bit boring and unadventurous when it comes to dial colors. I do, however, think that the blue on this one does look really good. All that said, thanks for tuning in and checking out this one with me, and thanks again for Exquisite Timepieces for loaning me this watch for the video. Until the next one, I'll sign off and say bye now.